So I'm really happy for those who stuck with me now, because apparently leaving the AI train a little bit. But I hope I will still be able to convey a little bit of interesting information. Maybe directly referencing the talk that was just given by Adrian. If you create images, you don't only want cats, right? Because cats should not be the default option. It might be funny, but in the enterprise, you need grounding on your actual data. And that's basically where I'm coming in now a little bit. So my role in Google Cloud is that of a so-called customer engineer. So this is a more technical role, also not directly in the publishing or imaging industry, but instead we have a technology platform. And if there's one message I would like you to take home with you from what I'm talking about now, that is platform over model. Yeah. So we've talked about many different models, which are great, which are fun to play around with at home. But if you really seriously want to apply that to a business, it's not sufficient to just take like one particular model and then tailor everything to that model, but instead you should have a platform which enables you to leverage those models for innovation. Yeah? I've taken one slide here about the publishing industry, and this is an old slide. This is like 3 or 4 years ago, and I've taken that on purpose because even before the AI hype train got going, all these industries, not only publishing but all other industries, have also already been in disruption. And companies were rebranding themselves as becoming software companies, becoming data-driven companies, and really getting more into personalization of customer-specific revenue streams. And this is also, to a large extent, especially in publishing here, due to changing consumer expectations. Yeah? You all are aware that people are probably reading less of the daily newspaper, but more consuming news, for example, through interactive formats, through video, so on and so forth. They are not consuming this one at a time, but instead they are like distributing their media consumption and also information consumption over the day. And of course, you as a company might want to create different revenue streams now through hyper-personalization. Like this includes paid content, for example. But in order to make all these new business models and revenue streams work, you need, of course, data. Yeah, and this is what I've mentioned. This has been the truth for, I would say, around about 10 years. So customers have been increasingly introducing so-called customer data platforms. Yeah, which means you get a 360-degree view of your customer. You know their purchasing behavior potentially. You know their interests. Of course, being at Google, most of you will know that we do have a large ads business. Yeah, so you really try to tailor your offering towards their customers. And many companies have that already. But now AI is coming in again. Yeah? Now this is a thing. And driving this home now, every third slide, I think, platform over model. Because you can now just say, OK, now I take like one particular AI model and use my data to generate some particular isolated insight. Or you can build a whole system for your company to use these tools and iteratively, continuously publish out or drive innovation. So I've mentioned I'm with Google Cloud. Yeah, Google Cloud is the B2B business of Google. So our customers are enterprises who want to run their IT infrastructure in Google data centers. So we host their hardware, we have servers standing there, and we do have managed services on these servers. Now, why is this important? Maybe also for you and maybe for the audience at this exhibition fair. Because everything, I mean, when we talk about innovation, when we talk about leveraging AI, this is affecting multiple different areas of your business, of your IT, but also of your overall business. And we as Google Cloud tackle these challenges in different parts of our strategy. So what you can see at the bottom is global infrastructure. So when you want to reach customers all over the globe with AI or with whatever else, it doesn't really help if you've got like one office location and you've got computers running there, because if you want to scale, if you want to push out innovation using AI, for example, you need a lot of hardware, and that hardware is really, really expensive. And if you want to run it yourself, you need to buy it, and that's a huge upfront cost. And in cloud, you can just rent these resources, right? So that's one thing. I'm going to through those categories one by one, but also teasing them a little bit. Data, yeah, you also don't want to just store separate files for whatever kind of data you get, but you want to be able to analyze your data. You want to do that in a secure fashion. You want the developers working on that data to be very efficient, and you want your people to collaborate with each other. So I'm going through them now in a little bit different order, but starting with security. I mentioned in the beginning, you don't just want to drive out cats. Yeah? Cats is not all you need. You want to ground stuff in your actual data. But if you apply these algorithms, this technology, to your actual company data, then you need to make sure that this data is being secured. Yeah? Because you don't want anyone to be able to access that data. And this is much, much harder to achieve if you operate these servers, because ultimately all this data is stored on some hard drive in some computer. Doesn't matter if it's yours or if it's in the cloud. Yeah, this is physically what happens. This needs to be secure, and it's much safer to leave this to a trusted provider than trying to do that all by yourselves, because threat actors online targeting organizations are becoming more and more adept at technology, and by the way, they are using AI too. Yeah? So threat actors are using AI to attack companies and infiltrate companies. So it's really important to have a secure infrastructure before just applying AI technology to whatever data you have. I could go in more detail, but I think I would bore every one of you, so please feel free to approach me after the talk if you're really interested in the security aspects, because we could fill like hours only with this topic alone. Next, I want to talk a little bit about the hardware again. Yeah? So I've mentioned if you wanted to do this all by yourself, you need really powerful hardware. You need to buy that hardware. For some of these algorithms which have been mentioned, like Stable Diffusion, if you wanted to run this at home efficiently and also train and improve that model with your own data, you would probably need multiple GPUs, graphic cards. These enterprise-grade GPUs cost upwards of $30,000 each. Yeah? And you train those models using multiples of those. So it's much, much more efficient to rent these for an amount of time from a provider who has them in scale and use them. And also, by the way, I've put up this slide because AI is not all you're doing as a company, right? You would need to invest in hardware for each and every specialized application that you are running. So therefore, here, it's an advantage in the cloud. You rent the resources you need, you use them as long as you need them, then maybe you switch to cheaper resources, and this will hopefully support your use cases. Moving on from infrastructure, I talked about data. And when I talk about data, this is really important, again, platform over model, because these models you want to apply, you want to generate a picture, for example, to be used in advertising, needs information about your customers, about your product, about the markets you are operating in, and therefore needs to have access to some of your data, hopefully. Otherwise, you need to engineer a lot of prompts. Yeah? And prompt engineering is not the full answer. So you want to unify data as much as possible. You want to be able to run analytics on that data as well. If you use AI to generate content, for example, you want to be able to revisit the quality of the output that has been generated and improve on that. Yeah? So that's really important. And because this is now maybe really theoretical, I don't know about your background, one example how this looks like in an enterprise context. So if you have a lot of photos, for example, and you want to create content with AI which looks similar to these photos, but you still want to understand what data is being used. You can use cloud technology, for example, store a lot of images in a data warehouse, and then automatically you can search through these images, right? I mean, image search is nothing new, but what might be new to you, I don't know, is that this is really in the end also analytics, yeah? I mean, if you search Google Photos, search for images with cars, then this image is being passed in the background, and all the different attributes of such an image are indexed and can be searched. Yeah? And if you've got such a backend for your data, then you can use all these fancy AI technology and apply it to those images. Next up, you want developers to work on this data. So you've got the infrastructure in place, it's safe, it's secured. You've got data stored on there, and now you put your data scientists to work, your application engineers to work, who are really supposed to create applications. Leveraging AI or not does not matter. So what's a huge portion of the job of a developer? You will spend a huge portion of his day or her day Googling stuff, yeah? Because of course they can be really good developers, they can write their code, but they will come across challenges and search for information. So you really want to have embedded AI embedded into this development and coding process as well. This means, not only code completion, yeah? It's easy to think of a use case where the developer says, write me this and this application, and then the code is automatically there. That's nice, that's also one use case. This works to some extent, might still have its problems. But also for much more tedious tasks, like asking the AI to comment the code that has already been written so other people can understand it as well and change it if needed later on. This means creating test cases, yeah, so that you automatically test all the code that's being developed. And this might also be like, again, quality assurance, checking content that is being generated, even content that is not being generated, to proofread it, doing citation checking, grounding the replies of this kinds of stuff. And last but not least, from these different categories I've presented in the beginning, you want to be able to collaborate on that data. And there are, of course, very, very obvious AI use cases when we talk about collaboration. Google has Google Workspace. Many of you might have a Gmail account, might have used Google Slides or Google Sheets before. More of you probably use Microsoft Office and are aware that AI features are getting integrated into these tools. And of course, I can now create a presentation in Google Slides and just generate an image from the context I'm working in without switching, saying, OK, create me an image of this, and then I can put up a nice slide and use it in my next presentation. But building on the blocks I've mentioned before, if I have all my data in a data warehouse in a structured way, I can also access that kind of data. Here you can see, for example, a spreadsheet. And I can create applications, low-code, no-code apps, which are also infused with AI. So I can now, already today, log into my account online. Our no-code solution is called AppSheet, but doesn't really matter. And tell it, please create me an app for myself that is based on my enterprise data and that allows me to do X, Y, Z. Yeah? So AI is getting infused in this whole tool chain even before I go about creating images and publish something, also for my internal productivity. Again, this is platform over model. We're talking about the whole stack that needs to be there in the back end as a basis for innovation on which you can then build on top. And if you have this platform in place, you can then go ahead and choose different models. This can be Google-owned models. Yeah, of course, we have our own models. This can be other models by Meta, by Anthropic, also by OpenAI. Yeah, so you can use all these models to generate really, really fancy use cases. But the platform in the back end is really, really important to continuously and safely use that in an enterprise context. So in the end, the presentation was titled Transform at Speed, Cloud as an enabler for digital innovation. So I've put up two benefits of cloud computing for innovation in all this AI context and other contexts as well here. On the short term, it really helps decreasing your capital expenditure, but instead using OpEx, renting out hardware where you need it, using it for your use cases, and thereby driving innovation. And in the long term, really allowing you to transform your business using all that data you have, creating pipelines for use cases and driving out innovation, and thereby also creating new revenue models and revenue streams. So therefore, there is, of course, an investment up front, yeah, if you try to modernize. But I think the trend is really, really clear. It's important to have a platform in place. It's much easier to create such a platform in the cloud because you have huge capital investments if you wanted to do it yourselves. So I can only encourage everyone here go ahead, try out AI, create images, do other cool stuff with it. But if you want to apply that to an enterprise context, make sure that the backend is in place and that you've got operating procedures and security in place before just using this, pushing this out, and in the worst case, then disappointing your customers where stuff isn't working out. That's the end of my presentation, but I'm happy to take any questions, dive deep into any of these topics if you like.
Thank you very much. Okay, then I give the question to the audience. Any questions to this topic? Oh, directly one.
Thank you for the presentation. What are the differences specifically in Google Cloud, or what can Google Cloud provide to me that I can't get from Amazon Web Services or Azure?
Yeah, so I'm not here to talk about the competition, but these are competing offerings which are similar in some extent, different than others. We strongly, so you're absolutely right that Azure and Amazon Web Service do have offerings in all of these areas as well. We strongly believe that Google is very strong in data and also in AI. So we do have our own, first of all, hardware for AI. We own the hardware. Microsoft does not. Microsoft is working with OpenAI. We have specialized hardware. Google is the inventor of TensorFlow, for example, has created the transformer model, which is the basis also for all these OpenAI models. So this has also been done by Google Research. And we do have this integrated stack. So AI is infused into every product we have. You can use AI in our data warehouse. You can use AI to operate our cloud landscape. And we are the only hyperscaler that has the vertically integrated stack and does not rely on partners to make AI happen within our products. So that's our huge differentiator that we see.
A follow-up question. If I'm in an enterprise business and I'm already in one of the other clouds, heavily invested in them,
yeah,
and I'd like to use some of your products, for example, some of the AI stack, how easy are they to integrate, for example, on the low-code or no-code front? Are there API calls readily available that I can select in the selector or something like that?
Yeah, okay, thank you. Let me start with the low-code part. These low-code apps do have direct integration, native integration with our own tooling, but also work with regular SQL statements, which you can connect against any database. And of course, you can use one on another cloud. You would need network connectivity because you might not want to consume that over the public internet, but that's also possible, doing like a cross-cloud network connectivity via VPN or also a dedicated line. As for multi-cloud or hybrid operations, using some on Google Cloud, using somewhere else, Google Cloud is very, very open. I don't know if you are aware, Google Cloud was a little bit late to the party, was introduced later. AWS was the first, then Azure. And Google is therefore started with a very, very open approach also to collaboration, because many customers are, of course, already on other hyperscalers. And we need to be open and multi-cloud and able to work with them. So we actually do have dedicated products that are multi-cloud capable. This includes our data warehouse, which is called BigQuery. BigQuery has a multi-cloud offering, which is called BigQuery Omni. So for example, you could host your data warehouse on Google Cloud, but also query data from other clouds without replication. Stuff like that is possible. Yeah, and everything, you mentioned APIs. All Google Cloud products are API-based. So you can, of course, build your own connectivity for every product.
Okay, any other questions to this topic?
Thank you so much for listening.
Then, Dennis, you're done for today. Thank you very much.